Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited. Is drone registration nothing but a Band-Aid? EAA speaks out about the VANS aircraft lawsuits. Is JLENS another government boondoggle? I'm Bree Cross. It's October 23rd, 2015, and this is Airborne Unlimited. Monday's announcement of a task force that will craft rules for registering UAVs continues to garner reactions from the aviation community. Aviation consultants, JDA Solutions, have added their voice to the chorus of commenters and said that they think it will create a lot of activity but not a lot of action. In a post on the company's blog, writer Sandy Murdoch says that the registration scheme is at best a Band-Aid and at worst may waste an opportunity to address a problem that actually exists. He opined that registration numbers will be too small to be of much value and added that regulating drones will require manpower and other expenses. Murdoch suggested that a $10 registration fee and a $5 annual renewal fee would fund what many in the industry seem to want, which is real enforcement of regulations covering UAVs. Of course, the FAA has not yet published these to be enforced. Murdoch suggests that the real answer to accountability is technology in the form of some kind of radio frequency identification system or transponder which will continuously broadcast information about the drone and its owner. ANN's stories about the recent legal attacks against VANS aircraft and FlowScan has kept our phones ringing and the email jammed, but we're pleased to see EAA has come out swinging as well. The outrage being expressed by the Arrowverse has been considerable. EAA notes that, quote, this week's $35 million lawsuit filed against VANS aircraft and a Washington transducer manufacturer has caused a big stir in the aviation and Homebuilt community. But the lawsuit is a false reflection of the safety and integrity of Homebuilt aircraft, end quote. EAA points out that while the lawsuit is based on the tragic loss of life in 2014 in a VANS RV-10 accident, the suit also claims that the FAA experimental amateur-built regulations are a loophole to provide substandard products. EAA's Vice President of Advocacy and Safety, Sean Elliott, said in part, quote, the demands and tone of the suit are nothing short of parasitical. This accident cannot be used to measure the value and integrity of the home-built aircraft industry. Lawsuits that challenge the industry as a whole do nothing to advance aviation safety, end quote. ANN has received some fascinating information about certain aspects of this case, as well as some of the details about the firm that is attacking VANS and FlowScan. We're researching it all now for a future update. After the break, it's reported that JLENS fails to meet expectations.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, Navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Welcome back. If you would like to be a supporter of Airborne Unlimited, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. According to a report in the Baltimore Sun, a tethered blimp referred to as the Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Netted Sensor System, known as JLENS, has failed to meet expectations after 17 years and an investment of nearly $3 billion. The report says that the 240-foot-long white tethered blimp has failed to effectively track targets and distinguish threats from friendly aircraft. Reports generated by the U.S. GAO and the Pentagon Operational Test and Evaluation Office classified the JLENS performance as poor in 2012. The report cited the landing of a gyrocopter on the Capitol grounds as an example of its failure to recognize a threatening target. According to the report, the Army tried to end the program in 2010, but prime contractor Raytheon and other supporters managed to salvage funding. The system was defended by Marine Corps General James E. Cartwright, who was at the time the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Cartwright later joined the Raytheon Board of Directors. It's Friday, and that means that it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly Barnstorming commentary. When lawyers go after an entire segment of general aviation, you can make a safe bet that general aviation is going to fight back. It's going to be a vicious war. Here is this week's Barnstorming.
Thanks, Bree, and hi, folks. In the midst of working on Bob Hoover's fight with the FAA as a documentary project for the future, an voluminous amount of research that we've done in the past and we continue to do now, a recent story has popped up that to a certain extent seems to be the quote-unquote Bob Hoover moment for an aspect of the aviation world that really can't be ignored. Vans Aircraft, one of the most respected sport aircraft manufacturers, kit manufacturers in the world, with some 9,000 completed aircraft and God knows how many more in circulation, a company that I know to be an upstanding one, led by a fellow with phenomenal ethics and a heart that just absolutely is devoted to seeing people fly and fly safely, is facing a $35 million lawsuit from an attorney with a reputation for going after aviation interests. And a guy who's been unfortunately very successful, and in some cases under circumstances that I personally question. In this particular case, tragic accident. A man flying an RV-10 has an engine failure in flight. He executes what appears to be a poor attempt at an emergency landing. He is killed. A 4-year-old girl is killed. And one survivor, the mother of the little girl, is now left to fend for herself in a world bereft of the people she loves. I know a little bit of how that feels. I just don't understand the need to blame someone, anyone, and try to look for a big payday. Very simply put, there are significant bits of evidence, significant documents, as published by the National Transportation Safety Board, without a doubt the most expert in this field, that indicates that an installation of a power plant accessory led to the power failure, and that the pilot's error resulted in an unsurvivable emergency landing for 2 out of 3 involved, and the third person who did live was severely injured. Don't get me wrong, if somebody does something grossly wrong, deliberately wrong, or is guilty of provable malfeasance, heck, go get them. But this is a case where Van's design didn't fail. It flew well. It just couldn't violate physics. And in the case of FlowScan, the company that made the fuel flow transducer, the fuel flow transducer was doing fine. It's just something blocked it that wasn't supposed to be part of the mix. And here we are. Aviation has paid through the nose because of excesses from the legal system. Aviation is a victim time and time again. Aviation is getting obliterated. I've talked to a number of manufacturers who can point to the fact that a significant portion of what we pay now in aviation is due to very hungry lawyers who, for some reason or another, never get enough. I'm making a list of what is currently the top 10 enemies of aviation, the things that keep us down, keep us from going forward, and keep us from rebuilding aviation anew. Product liability reform, aviation litigation is one close to the list. It's madness. It doesn't make sense, and it's out of control. What are we going to do about it? We better do something, because at this stage of the game, there's not going to be much left when the attorneys get done with us. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell.
After these messages, Besenyei bids farewell to Red Bull Air Racing.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B ATX100 and ATX100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. Red Bull Air Race informs us that Hungary's Peter Besenyei, one of the most successful pilots in the history of the Red Bull Air Racing, is retiring from the race circuit. He helped develop the sport in 2003 and has 8 career victories. The Sheehan family has lost an eminent domain battle with the government and forfeited their property. The property overlooks Area 51 in Nevada and was transferred to the U.S. Air Force. They say their property was worth much more than what they received. Etihad Airlines has been accused of helping a former pilot flee the United States, breaking his bail conditions after being arrested in Chicago. It's alleged the pilot had attacked another former pilot 2 years ago in an alleged drunken rampage. Air Combat USA is returning to the Quantum FBO at Kissimmee Gateway Airport December 5th to the 7th. Adventure seekers and aspiring fighter pilots will have their chance to engage in realistic air-to-air combat simulations in a real fighter trainer aircraft. U.S. helicopter transport operator Air Group has placed into service its first Sikorsky S-92 helicopter in the U.S. Gulf of Mexico. The first revenue flight occurred earlier this week under a contract with a large independent oil and gas company. Well, that's our trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. Lockheed Martin has successfully completed the maiden flight of the F-16V, the latest and most advanced variant of the F-16 Fighter Eagle multi-role fighter. The flight marks the first time an F-16 has flown with Northrop Grumman's advanced APG-83 active electronically scanned array and scalable agile beam radar, which will deliver a quantum leap in capability for the venerable F-16. The F-16 Viper Advanced Avionics configuration also includes a new cockpit center pedestal display, a modernized mission computer, a high-capacity Ethernet data bus, and several other mission systems enhancements that collectively add significant combat capabilities. The F-16V is an option for both new production F-16s and F-16 upgrades. Well, that's our program for today. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday, with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations every weekday for the best in aviation and aerospace news from the staff of the Aero-News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you on Monday.